You're not necessarily tired because you worked a lot. Sometimes you get tired because, all day, your brain never got a clear signal. The day is over, you can leave standby mode. You sat at a laptop, you barely moved. You didn't run or carry anything heavy. But by evening, you only have the strength to collapse onto the couch. An hour passes, you're still scrolling the screen, and you don't feel rested. Because tiredness isn't always an empty battery. Sometimes it's a readiness system that couldn't switch off. Your cells didn't drain to zero. Even after a hard day, the heart keeps beating. Breathing muscles work, neurons pass signals, and the body still holds reserves of fuel. So tiredness isn't just a message, energy is gone. Often it's a decision by the control system. Continuing has become too costly, too hard, or too risky. To see where that decision comes from, let's follow one ordinary day. In the morning, you open the laptop. On screen, a task to finish. A minute later, a message appears. Then an email, then a notification. You reply, return to the task, and try to recall where you left off. Each switch feels like a trifle. But the brain has to reload the right rules, goals, and details. Part of the previous task stays active for a while. Attention doesn't teleport instantly. It rebuilds its priorities every single time. But the worst part isn't during a single switch. It begins when the day no longer has a final task. The brain gets used to waiting for the next signal. Even in the minute you called rest. By lunch, you may have done little actual work, yet you decided hundreds of times what mattered most right now. That's why a busy day feels heavy, even when little got done. Multitasking adds another layer. When you hold several demands at once, activity of the sympathetic nervous system can rise. While parasympathetic activity can decrease, the body stays in readiness more often than in recovery. And readiness doesn't live only in your head. Check your shoulders right now, your jaw, the muscles around your eyes. Some of them may be tense, though you're holding nothing. When the brain expects the next problem, the body prepares to act. Breathing changes, muscle tone remains elevated, and attention scans the surroundings. One such response means almost nothing. But if the day consists of hundreds of unresolved concerns, it never gets a clear endpoint. Physical work usually tells you when it's done. The box is carried, the distance is covered, the floor is washed. Mental work often leaves open loops. An email without a reply, a decision without a result, a conversation you keep returning to in your mind. Even a closed laptop doesn't give the brain a task complete signal. So in the evening, your hand reaches for the phone. It feels like rest is about to begin, but the screen offers a new task every few seconds. Recognize a face, read a caption, judge a threat. It's easier than work, but the stream of novelty holds attention. You stop producing a result, yet the system processing incoming signals didn't stop. Hence an important distinction. Absence of work isn't recovery. Real recovery begins when demands grow fewer, and the body gets a clear signal of safety. That's why the fix rarely looks like the order, pull yourself together. The first step is to close the loops, at least symbolically. Before the day ends, write down everything left unfinished and mark one next action for each task. Not deal with the project, but open the document and check the first section tomorrow at 10. You didn't solve it, but you stopped holding it in memory constantly. The second step is to create a transition between work and rest. 10 minutes of calm walking beats an hour of scrolling. There's no magic of a detox here. The surroundings, posture, and stream of signals simply change. Big muscles work rhythmically, and demands go quiet for a while. The third step is to reduce task switching, at least for a while. You don't have to throw out the phone. Decide that for the next 20 minutes, you'll focus on just one thing. A shower, a walk, food, music, or a talk without a parallel feed. You can run a simple experiment. One evening, rest as usual. Another, first write down the unfinished tasks. Walk for 10 minutes and spend 20 minutes without notifications. Then rate your tiredness and tension on a scale from 1 to 10. This isn't a medical test, but it can help distinguish a genuine lack of energy from a state in which the brain simply never received a clear signal that the workday was over. There's an important limit. Constant tiredness isn't tied only to load and habits. Anemia, thyroid disease, infections, depression, sleep disorders, and some medications can also drain you. If tiredness lasts for weeks, grows, or disrupts your life, or comes with shortness of breath, pain, fainting, weight loss, everyday experiments are no substitute for a doctor. But on an ordinary overloaded day, the takeaway is simpler. You can get tired not because you did too much. Sometimes what drains you is that no task got a clear end. No signal was the last one, and all day the brain stood at the door, waiting for the next knock. There's another reason tiredness can't be measured in movements. The brain weighs not only cost, but the odds of reward. When the result is near and clear, effort feels lighter. When a task is endless and the mark of success is blurry, the same load starts to feel heavier. So you can spend 2 hours eagerly solving a hard problem, and after 20 minutes of bureaucracy feel drained. It's not that neurons burn more fuel. What changed was control, predictability, and the point of going on. This explains another everyday paradox. Sometimes strength returns when good news arrives. Cells didn't refill their reserves in a second, but the brain recomputed the value of acting and released resources. Tiredness is not made up. It's a real state born from the link between body and brain. It just doesn't work like a fuel gauge in a car. So beating it with motivation alone is dangerous. The signal can be overridden by a deadline, fear, or reward. But that doesn't mean recovery isn't needed. If every morning starts drained and rest no longer helps, you don't need a more convincing pep talk. You need to look for the cause. For an ordinary day, it helps to split 2 questions. First, am I able to keep going right now? Second, what exactly is getting in the way? Sleepiness, boredom, anxiety, tension, hunger, or constant switching? The word tired merges different states, and their fixes differ. If you're sleepy, notifications won't make up for lost sleep. If your body is stiff, 10 minutes of movement beats another cup of coffee. If a vague task scares you, define the next step. If your attention is fragmented, you need a period of uninterrupted focus on one thing. So the fix becomes not the advice rest, but a small diagnosis of your own day. And still, even a perfect evening won't fully help. If the body didn't recover during the night, in the next episode, a paradox familiar to millions. You honestly spent 8 hours in bed and woke up as if you hadn't slept at all. Subscribe to BioCode Lab, where the complex becomes simple.